Greetings, denizens of the Empire. It's Jabara here. One of the most popular TV series in perhaps the history of television is Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones is actually one of my personal favorite TV shows too, and that's kinda saying a lot considering there are very few TV shows that compel me to watch TV in the first place. Though based loosely on British history, the show contains several references to other parts of history from various peoples and cultures of the world, with extra emphasis on Europe, including the Iron Islanders, whom are like the Vikings, the Faith of the Seven with obvious similarities to Catholicism, and the Dornish people resembling the Spanish. However, I couldn't help but notice that the show features parallels to another place, far from Britain, and far from Europe even. And this isn't some breakdown of cultures that were intended by the creators to be similar to those of Africa, like the Summer Islands, which are never shown in the series and are described as a place where slaves come from, or Slaver's Bay, which contains numerous slave trading cities similar to North Africa and the Arab world. I'm referring to Game of Thrones as a whole. Its main plot and themes bear some striking similarities to West African history, with some very obvious differences of course, including the physical appearances of the people, the climate, and the economy. So let's explore a few of these. Firstly, one of the most direct and striking similarities I found between West African history and the lore of Game of Thrones was the Wildlings. In Game of Thrones, Wildlings are barbarians who live in the northernmost stretches of the continent of Westeros, in a frigid wasteland collectively known as the Land of Always Winter. In these lands, they are forced to eke out an existence primarily by hunting rather than having settled places to live and grow crops. In West Africa, analogous people known collectively as Berbers also live in the northernmost region of their respective continent, but instead of being in a land that is always winter, they live in a land that is quite the opposite. A land that is always hot and dry, except at night. The Sahara Desert. Similar to the Wildlings, Berbers can't grow crops or live in settled communities in their homeland, aside from the occasional oasis. However, rather than hunting, they herd livestock and trade with farming communities from the more fertile lands to the south. In both the Game of Thrones continent of Westeros and the real-world continent of Africa, the people were collectively referred to terms that weren't used by the people themselves. Wildling is a term that is offensive to the respective people, as it was used to denote the perceived barbarism or savagery of their people. Similarly, the name Berber is believed to possibly derive from the word barbarian. Instead, the Wildlings prefer to call themselves free folk, and Berbers to the present day prefer the term Amazigh, which translates to free people. The Berbers and Wildlings both share a reputation of fiercely raiding cities to the south and pillaging them for food and other resources. In Game of Thrones, a strong and bitter hatred towards Wildlings is a prominent theme throughout the series, with Sam Tarly's father despising them and disowning his son for bringing one to his dinner table. Jon Snow is even killed by his own men in the Night's Watch for allowing Wildlings through the gates of the wall, despite knowing that some of his men had lost their families to Wildlings. Similarly, in West African history, Berbers frequently raided wealthy trading cities within the empires of Ghana, Mali, and Songhai. Both Wildlings and Berbers had a reputation for being fierce warriors, but have historically lacked numbers and organization compared to their southern counterparts. With this being the case, they seldom controlled southern lands for any substantial length of time. The Wildlings did briefly unite however under Mance Rayder, who was known to the southern kingdoms as the King Beyond the Wall. Mance Rayder built up a large army, which he used to raid the wall with limited success. Analogously, the Berbers united into confederations at various points throughout history, notably in the 15th century, when Akil Ag Amalwal united various Berber peoples and conquered numerous cities from the Mali Empire, including Walata and Timbuktu. Game of Thrones tends to feature several references to the old gods and the new gods, and people are often indecisive on which gods to follow or they just follow whatever gods are convenient at the time, even mixing the religious practices of the old gods and the new as they see fit. West African history experienced a similar thing. West Africans traditionally practiced animism and worshipped pantheons of hundreds of gods. However, in a period spanning roughly between the years of 1000 and 1900 CE, Islam trickled its way into Western African society. In some places, it only reached as far as the trade routes, but other cases, it only made its way into royal lines or common people only. As mentioned in the intro of this video, the Faith of the Seven has analogies with the Catholicism of the real world, but a more accurate statement would be to say that it shares similarities with Abrahamic religions collectively. The fact that it is a monotheistic religion is one of them. Its heavy emphasis on the use of a book known as the Seven-Pointed Star relates it to the Bible and the Quran, and the star itself draws a sharp parallel to the numerous stars represented in Abrahamic faiths, including the Jewish Star of David and the Star of Bethlehem in Christianity. Despite neither of the two having 7 points, the number 7 being used in and of itself makes it similar to these religions, as God is said to have created the earth in 7 days, and the number 7 is a continuous theme in all Abrahamic religions. This trend continued in the Islamic kingdoms of West Africa, and even in those that still practice traditional African religions. According to tradition, for example, the siege of Djenné by the Songhai Empire is said to have taken 7 years, 7 months, and 7 days to complete, and the Ashanti Empire had a total of 77 laws. Both Westeros and Africa experienced great turmoil and power struggles centered around the old gods and the new as well, with the practitioners of the old gods prevailing at times over the new and failing others. Before we continue on with the next comparison, I'd like to thank Happy Hippo Herbals for making this video possible. Kratom is a traditional alternative medicine that I use daily and it's highly effective. So you're probably wondering now, well, what is Kratom? Kratom is a plant native to Southeast Asia and has been used by indigenous peoples of the region for centuries. After trying it out for myself, the best way I can describe its effect on me is a combination of feeling relaxed and mellow, all the while feeling focused and energetic. Similar to the energetic effects of coffee or tea, except feeling generally calm and content at the same time, and without crashing or feeling dehydrated afterwards. I pretty much just stop focusing on problems, have a general sense of well-being, and just overall happy vibes without feeling overwhelmed. It's exactly what I need when I'm tirelessly conducting research for new content and editing my videos. Bear in mind, however, that Kratom is a lifestyle product that is unregulated by the FDA, so it's important to do your own research about the benefits and the risks. So just like anything else, controlling portions and being responsible are really all there is to it. I can confidently tell you, however, that it works great for me and I highly recommend it. You can receive a 15% discount on all Happy Hippo Herbals products using my referral link down below or my coupon code FN10 at checkout. It'll definitely help to bring some positivity into your life, all the while helping support my channel. While the Dothraki are obviously based heavily on the Mongols and other steppe peoples of Central Asia, I couldn't help notice similarities with the nomadic Sahel peoples of West Africa. But before we talk about that, firstly I'd like to give an honorable mention. I noticed that the Dothraki used the shotel, a sickle-shaped blade with a dramatic hooked shape, which is literally a spitting image of a sword used throughout Ethiopian history. Ethiopian people, however, traditionally inhabited the highlands of the African Horn, but it was worth noting the parallel nonetheless. The Dothraki people have an aversion to wearing armor, or as they call it, iron suits, in battle, which similarly in West Africa, armor was seldom used. Additionally, the Dothraki occupy the largest stretch of land out of any one people on the planet due to their largely nomadic nature, a region referred to as the Dothraki Sea. This is one of many aspects of their culture that parallels Central Asian steppe peoples, but it also parallels the Fulani of West Africa, who occupy a larger stretch of sub-Saharan Africa than any one ethnic group. Throughout the centuries, the largely nomadic Fulani people have come to inhabit virtually every country of the Sahel and Savannah regions of Africa, reaching from the Atlantic coast in the west to the Indian Ocean coast to the east, and having a massive influence on the politics and economy of the respective states that have risen and fallen in the region throughout history. Similar to the wildlings who live north of the Wall, there are a group of barbarians that inhabit lands farther south in Westeros, inhabiting a mountainous region near the Vale of Arryn. However, they are not subjects of the Vale, or any of the other 7 kingdoms for that matter, as they've been unconquerable since the arrival of the Andals into Westeros. Like the wildlings, they tend to have a shaggy, unkempt appearance and perpetuate the typical barbaric or savage trope. They have a brutal nature of harassing and killing travelers who have the misfortune of finding their way into this hilly region. In Malian history, a similar hill-dwelling people occupied the land south of the Mali Empire in a place known as Futa Jalon. This region was inhabited by stateless peoples whom the people of Mali referred to as the Lamlam. Similarly, they weren't controlled by any central authority and their lands have been historically difficult to control. Even during the time of the Songhai Empire, a Malian army as well as its king took refuge in the Lamlam lands, which discouraged further pursuit by the Songhai army. The 7 kingdoms of Westeros are very distinct from one another. Despite speaking the same language known as the Common Tongue, the 7 kingdoms all have unique histories, cultures, and in some cases, physical appearances. Despite these differences, they swear allegiance to a central authority at King's Landing, but are able to remain relatively unbothered so as long as loyalty is pledged to the king, tributes are paid, and duties are done. The Songhai Empire of West Africa was also composed of several kingdoms, all of which swore allegiance to a central authority, but remained relatively autonomous, being allowed to retain even their own local languages and religions. In most of Islamdom, this was not the case. In the Songhai Empire, Islam and the Arabic language was restricted mostly to the royalty and a few commercial hubs. In Songhai, there were several distinct cultural groups of various languages and religions depending on the region in question, with the western and northern regions of the empire having more Islamic influence, while the southern and eastern parts tended to worship traditional African gods. The 7 kingdoms of Westeros and those of Songhai also share the tendency of royal intrigue and usurping by competing princes and bastard sons, such as the case with Joffrey Baratheon, Stannis Baratheon, and Renly Baratheon. Or in the Songhai Empire, you had several civil wars, including one that indirectly led to its downfall, where the empire was split between Princes Kabara Farma and Bani. Lastly, there are the White Walkers. In Game of Thrones, White Walkers are magical beings that are created by the Night King, as he reanimates corpses of the dead with dark magic. He and his army of White Walkers kill living beings strictly for the purpose of turning their corpses into undead warriors. White Walkers are purely evil beings with no soul and want nothing more than to kill the living. And the West African voodoo religion, most popularly known from the Caribbean country of Haiti, zombies are more or less the same, only less dramatic. Similar to White Walkers, zombies are created as a result of dark magic used by a priest to reanimate corpses, which come back without a soul and are used for evil purposes. In West African religions, they are analogous to ghosts in other cultures, and they are created to come back and torment or haunt the living, or to serve the priest to revive them for various acts including criminal activity or free labor. Their soulless, undead nature, however, is unquestionably the influence of White Walkers and virtually all other undead lore throughout the 20th century. I hope you all enjoyed the video, and if you did, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and enable notifications. For sources, check out my website, linked below. If you'd like to support future projects, you can do so there as well, or by clicking the join button below, or by becoming a patron. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching as usual, and always remember, we don't come from nothing.